All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Dimes and Donuts, your deep dive into the Bad Owners Fantasy League, and we are in the championship round. I've got Nick of the Plano Nukes and Jake of the T11 Tudgays, and today they're going to be breaking down their championship matchup, position by position, player by player. We've got plenty of injuries to discuss as well. How are you boys feeling today?
I'm just happy to be here.
As you should.
Yeah, making it to the finals, I can't complain. Win or lose at this point, I'm happy, so it's whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I think we were definitely expecting either the Irving Indica or the Atlanta Cicadas within the first few weeks to show up in at least one of these spots. Neither did. And so this is kind of a dark horse matchup. Maybe would you either of y'all consider yourselves dark horses, or do you think that you were favorites at any point?
I was definitely never a favorite.
I think
many times throughout the season where everyone's like, yeah, the Plano Nukes kind of suck, or I can't even imagine they're going to make the playoffs. I think, Garrett, you yourself had me for a long time as not even making the playoffs.
I didn't have you making the playoffs for probably the first half of the season.
Right.
So in my opinion, yes, you are a dark horse. But yeah, you made some good moves, especially near the trade deadline, even though, one of those big moves will not be helping you in the championship game. We'll talk about it later. But you made enough moves to get to where you are now. And Jake, you have the most fantasy team out of everybody. It is so offensively stacked that I've had you pretty high in the rankings consistently throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't know. You never expect to make the finals because, there's always an injury or something that holds you back. So, I definitely expected playoffs, maybe a little bit of a run, maybe to the semis. And I even predicted losing in the first round of the playoffs. So I didn't think I'd be here, but, I did have, the offense just carried it for me all the way here. So hopefully they can do it one more time. But yeah, I'm excited.
Well, awesome. Great to hear. Nobody had this matchup. We did our last episode where we kind of predicted the playoffs for everybody. This was not a scenario that anybody had for the championship. So it's a crapshoot. We don't know what's going to happen, but you both look great, and we're going to break that down here. So we're going to start from the top with quarterback, ending with defensive back, and we are going to talk about your positions. So first, might as well start with quarterback. All right, so for the Plano Nukes at the quarterback position, we've got Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, whereas for the T11 Tudgays, we've got Joe Burrow and Geno Smith. Now, I assume the reason you're playing Geno is because, unfortunately, Tua went down this week. So between the two of you, go off. Who's got the better quarterback position this week?
Oh, I think it's easily me. I'm not sure if that's up for debate, but Josh Allen as sort of the de facto top 3 fantasy QB with Dak Prescott, who's been leading one of the... it's been a little slower this year than last year, but is historically one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. I'm feeling good about my quarterback situation for sure this week.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Nick on this one. I think it'd be closer if Tua didn't get his 5th concussion this year and is out this week. But Geno Smith, he's been putting up solid numbers, so I don't think he'll be too far behind Dak. And then, of course, we have the Monday night matchup with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. I think Josh Allen has a slight edge, but that game could really go either way. But if I were to put money on it, I'd put my money on Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think I agree with the Plano Nukes taking it here. And I don't think we can stress the importance of that Monday night game enough when you've got two of your, you would argue, best franchise key players going up against each other in the championship weekend of fantasy.
Final game of the week.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, that is the game of the week for sure. All right, so next we'll go into running backs. We've got Travis Etienne and Joe Mixon for the Plano Nukes. And then for the T11 Tudgays, we've got James Conner, Jerick McKinnon. Well, actually just James Conner and Jerick McKinnon. I thought you had a third. So where are we thinking these guys are going to end up?
Well, so running back wise, I don't know if you want to do flex or not, but I'm also running Ezekiel Elliott and AJ Dillon. Very running back heavy this season.
So, you're super running back heavy this game, actually. Okay, Gotcha. We should probably just do flex as a whole because it's going to be hard to stack all of those against each other.
Sure, yeah. So just my, the 2 running back 1, running back 2 positions, I honestly feel like we're very even, and I am not comfy in this matchup at all.
Yeah, I think it's, really, because Joe Mixon and Jerick McKinnon, like they're the two flyers. They could go off for 25 points or they could go off for 5 points. So I mean, I think James Conner and Travis Etienne are the exact same, fantasy wise. So I'm with Nick. I mean, it's an even matchup.
Yeah, and I'm definitely disappointed that Jonathan Taylor, the person who I just gave up the farm for, is not going to be able to be here for my championship weekend. But we'll see. We'll see, right? We'll see.
Yeah, and obviously, I have Derrick Henry out this week. They just put him as doubtful today, so probably not going to see him tomorrow against the Cowboys. So I think on the injury side for our running backs, we're also even there.
Yeah, that's fair. That does actually even us out on the running back department.
Yeah, you're both missing huge pieces. I'm actually going to give the edge to the Tudgays here just because Jerick McKinnon is playing the Denver Broncos, who are essentially tanking at this point. I think that game is going to be over early, and he is a 30-year-old aging running back that they do like to give the ball to when the game is pretty much over. So I think that he's going to get a lot of touches later in the game, whereas Joe Mixon, the other boom-bust running back on the other side, is playing Buffalo. I don't know if he's going to have that same luxury in that game of getting more touches.
Oh, that's totally fair.
I would give a slight edge to the Tudgays here for that position. All right, so next we've got our wide receivers that are not in flex spots. We've got Allen Lazard, Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. The first two for Plano and the second two for the TD11 Tudgays. This might be the most lopsided.
I mean,
just on face value.
This is even a debate. I have two wide receivers who I wish I wasn't even having to start right now, versus two fantasy football
They're top three
wide receiver
They're
legends.
Top three wide receivers right now.
I mean, Stephon Diggs is arguably, a first round draft pick in redraft this season. Tyreek Hill, you could argue maybe like a second round draft pick, right? I mean, they're insane. That's an insane wide receiver.
You'd give Stephon the first round, but Tyreek the second?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Really? Because Stephon's older. Tyreek is...
Oh, I said for redraft. I'm saying like where they are this season right now.
For a normal
they're
league,
just
not for a dynasty.
Yeah. They're just monsters right now. I mean, to be fair, both of them you could argue are first round picks. I was just giving him the second round pick this past season just because, there was some confusion about where he would be. Right. But honestly, he's been doing amazing fantasy-wise. That's a devastating wide receiver room. You really can't get any better than Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs in the same room. That's crazy.
Yeah,
definitely.
Those two are the reason that I'm playing in the championship this week. I mean, all season they've carried me. Every time I've won, they've put up big points. So, I mean, if I'm going to win, this matchup, it's going to be them two that carry me.
Yeah, that's definitely been the Tudgay catalyst, is that wide receiver room. So, okay, we've got TJ Hawkinson and Darren Waller as the competing tight ends this week. So, Nick, how do you feel about TJ right now?
That he's one of the best fantasy tight ends in the NFL. I mean, it's not even close. I think that between TJ Hawkinson versus Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson every single day. He's currently the number 2 tight end fantasy-wise. Just last week, he put up 35.9 points for me. I mean, he's now finally getting in stride with Kirk Cousins. You could tell that they had a very strong connection, and he's looking for Hawkinson when it's, in the red zone situations. I feel very good about it.
Yeah, I agree there. And Jake, how are you feeling about Waller?
Oh, man. My tight ends have been a mess all year. I've never been able to fix it. I mean, there's really 3, 4, maybe even 5 decent tight ends in the league. And then obviously you have Travis Kelce in a league of his own. But yeah, I'm at the bottom of the barrel for tight ends. It's been this way all season. I'm not too concerned about it. If I were to give up a position on my team, it'd definitely be tight end.
Yeah, I think that's most teams in the league. Again, unless you have a Kelce or a Hawkinson. But yeah, I think you're Exhibit A in, my great debate of tight ends kind of suck and you don't really need them that much. Even TJ Hawkinson can have the 4 or 5 point dud every week. It's just the way it goes. All right, so let's go into your flex. You've both chosen a very different flex strategy here. So the Plano Nukes electing to go with another 2 tight end week by keeping George Kittle. They've also got Ezekiel Elliott and AJ Dillon as running backs. So tight end, running back heavy. Whereas the Tudgays Right now, you guys are fielding Michael Gallup, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Adam Thielen as your flex spots. Why don't you guys take me through what you're thinking there?
I don't have any wide receivers, so I can't run them in my flex spot. That's really where it boils down to. I mean, if you ask me, strategy-wise, should you put tight ends or running backs into your flex spot or wide receivers? I think you're absolutely insane for even questioning that you would put anything other than a wide receiver in your flex spot. But the caliber of my wide receivers that are not injured right now versus, George Kittle, Ezekiel Elliott, AJ Dillon is not even close. So unfortunately, I'm rolling with a tight end and 2 running backs in my flexes.
So it's really a desperation move. Although I will say, especially with Zeke, you've got a very high-powered offense right now. The Cowboys are putting up crazy points ever since Stat came back. And, when you're on the 1-yard line, or you're in the red zone a lot, you do have the potential to get a random 6-point touchdown there.
Absolutely. And George Kittle is being used as a receiver right now. So
finally. I don't know what was going on there.
He's been doing great all season. I mean, after missing the first 2 weeks, right, which will impact your overall fantasy rank, he's still the number 4 tight end right now.
Yeah, and I think that Brock Purdy can rely on him a lot too. You need a veteran receiver tight end to definitely carry you there. So hopefully he continues to do that. So Jake, all wide receivers.
Yeah, I've been rolling pretty much all wide receivers all season. Usually when Derrick Henry is healthy, I'll have Jerick McKinnon in for Michael Gallup at the flex. But I decided to put Gallup in over Zay Jones just because this Tennessee squad the Cowboys got tomorrow night are banged up. Obviously their player isn't playing. It's Derrick Henry, and he's the only reason the Titans have been relevant the past couple of years. So I think it's going to be a big scoring game for the Cowboys, like we were talking about earlier. So that's why I went with Gallup. And then if we go down to Juju Smith-Schuster, he plays for the Chiefs. You have Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball. There has been some weeks where he's been quiet, but he's been pretty consistent for me all year, so I'm pretty happy with him. And then finally, we got Adam Thielen. Definitely towards the end of his career, maybe 1 or 2 years more left for him. But I think he's been solid all year. He has his days where he has, 15, 16 points. And then every once in a while he'll catch or have 1 catch, 2 catches for 20 yards. So, I think the flexes is what it's going to come down to this matchup. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, flex will definitely be important. And Thielen's great. He just happens to be on the same team as the best wide receiver in the league right now. So That's not ideal, but it is what it is. All right, so next we've got the defensive line, because you're super flex for quarterbacks. So
right.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that. All right, so for the Plano Nukes, we've got Brian Burns, Aiden Hutchinson, and Christian Wilkins. And then we've got Danielle Hunter, Khalil Mack, and Josh Allen for the defensive line on the Tudgays. So what are you guys thinking here?
I don't know. It's tricky. I really like my defensive line unit. I actually think that Brian, just my whole D-line in general has been actually one of the bright points of my team. Despite them not immediately seeming as the defensive line superstars, I really like my defensive line. And, matched up against guys like Hunter, Mack, Allen, those are arguably some of the biggest household names on the defensive line right now. I still really like my defensive line in that matchup.
Yeah, I think that name-wise, recognition-wise, you're probably going to get beat out, except for, Aiden Hutchinson. He's coming into his own, but he's still, prone to scoring 5 or 6 points a week. So that can be tough. He is still learning. He'll be a star soon. But yeah, on paper, it is pretty even. So what are you thinking, Jake?
It's up in the air because Khalil Mack is just one of those dudes who will either have 30 points or 7 points. Same with Josh Allen. And then, what's his name? Danielle Hunter. he's been very consistent for me all year. So I can kind of expect him, to put up at least 15 points. But looking over at Nick's side, man, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It's, it just comes down to sacks. Are our guys getting sacks? I mean, that's what you want from the D line. That's how you get big points. So I don't know. It's up in the air.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that why I'm so happy with my unit this past season is because these three guys are consistently getting sacks. Now, Aiden Hutchinson, I do think that when it comes to just a direct defensive line versus defensive line matchup between us two, it'll really all come down to, does Aiden Hutchinson have a good week, or does he have one of his weeks where he kind of just disappears? And if he has a good week, I think that I have the better, unit. If he disappears this week, I mean, it's over, right?
Right, yeah. Last time he scored more than 20 points was week 10, and he's only done that twice this season.
Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson.
That's not right. He scored over 10 points just 2 weeks ago.
I said 20.
Oh,
20
points.
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, 10 points, he's done that, looks like 4 or 5 times.
Right. He is not your big, my big, point scorer. That's definitely more Brian Burns, Christian Wilkins. They're much more consistent.
Yeah, definitely more consistent there. Okay, now we'll go into the position of consistency, linebackers. So we've got Fred Warner, Jerome Baker, and Roquan Smith for the Nukes. We've got TJ Edwards, Bobby Wagner, and Christian Kirksey. Kirksey? Am I saying that right? Yeah, Kirksey. Christian Kirksey for the Tudgays. All right, so Nick, a little bit of star power here, so that's fun, but how do you feel about this matchup?
Well, I definitely feel great about Roquan Smith. He has been a powerhouse in the linebacker position. When he got traded, he had a little bit of a issue with points for like a week or two. I actually think the week that he got traded, he actually did do pretty well. But, he's been consistently scoring insane points. So that's been a position that I just plug and don't even have to think about it.
Right.
Not sure how I feel about the other two, Fred Warner and Jerome Baker. I mean, Fred Warner pretty consistently does well. I feel pretty good about it, but at the same time, there's definitely been times more earlier in the season he's gotten more consistently high scoring as the season's gone on, but it still scares me a little bit. But that's just how all these positions are, right? That they could out of nowhere disappear. But I feel pretty good about Fred Warner. Jerome Baker, he's in because Cole Holcomb went out for the season. I had Cole Holcomb in that position, which I felt a lot better about. And then I had Zach Cunningham in that position, which I felt better about. And then I had David Long in that position, which I felt better about. But all three are out due to injury.
That's tough.
We are on our, fourth, linebacker in that spot. And so who knows? I am a little bit concerned about that.
All right, Jake, how do you feel about your linebackers?
I mean, I've liked my linebackers all year. I think they've been consistent. Every once in a while you'll get like a Bobby Wagner 30-point week. But between TJ Edwards and Kirksey, I mean, they just been putting up 20 points every week. Every time I check, they just seem to get their tackles in, get their numbers in. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything different this week. Hopefully one of them can, have one of those big weeks where you're seeing 2 sacks, maybe an interception or something like that. But, I mean, they've been consistent. I expect them to be, 20 points again this week.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think, again, both of your rooms are fine here. It does suck that, the Nukes have had a bunch of injuries. I mean, everybody's had linebacker injuries. They're the most prone to it. But, if you look at the matchups now, the application that we use doesn't give you the color-coded matchup indicator. But linebackers going up against Las Vegas, New England, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, the Chargers, and Jacksonville, that's great. Those first 4 teams, they're not great on offense. So you might not see as much play. But the Chargers and Jacksonville, I mean, they're known to throw it around a bit, especially in the middle. So, plenty of points for these guys is what I would project. So our last position group before IDP is defensive back. So for the Nukes, we've got L'Jarius Sneed, Donovan Wilson, and did I skip one?
Deshaun Elliott.
Oh, and Deshaun Elliott. Yep. And then for the TD11 Tudgays, we've got Rashawn Jenkins, Deron Harmon, and Trent McDuffie. Any
DB
thoughts?
is such a weird position for me. I drafted a few DB. This was our first year, obviously. And in the startup, I drafted some defensive backs, right?
Right.
None of the ones that I drafted with the intention to start have kept their spot on my roster. L'Jarius Sneed, I drafted in the 43rd round. Deshaun Elliott was the earliest one with the 36th round. And Donovan Wilson, right, 49th round. So I think that when compared to, the TD11 Tudgays, I mean, honestly, looking at his too, though, like, none of these are guys that are, like, super early on at the start of the season, right? It looks like you have 2 waiver pickups and a draft pick from the 37th round. So this has just been a weird position for, it looks like, both of our teams this season. I have no idea how they're going to match up. A lot of these guys will have a fantastic week, but sometimes they just don't get thrown to. That side of the field just doesn't happen for them. For whatever reason, they don't get a lot of points. I think that the DB unit matchup between us two is going to be a huge factor in who ends up winning this week.
Yeah, I think Garrett knows a thing or two about my defensive backs. Obviously, with Rashawn Jenkins, putting up 50 points in our matchup in the first round of playoffs, I think that, I mean, obviously he's not going to do that again, but I think the potential is there for any of the DBs on either side. So kind of what Nick was saying. I mean, it's you just don't know with defensive backs. Like, you really don't. There's no way to, predict it. Obviously, you can look at matchups, but we're not in the film room. We don't know if they're going to be throwing the ball to their side or not. So, I mean, I'm excited for the DBs, honestly. I think it's an underrated matchup, just, throughout the league. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think DBs are so scheme dependent sometimes that you don't know a team's game plan. You don't know who's going to get thrown to. You don't know, who's playing zone, who's playing this, who's playing what. So it is definitely hard. I believe Nick and I talked about it in one of the later episodes of the pod, but, they are such waiver fodder. Like, you can pick up a DB off waivers every week that's projected at least 14 points. Like, just about every week, like, that is going to be there. So, we didn't see a whole lot of draft capital go into DBs unless they had like a huge name like, a Jalen Ramsey or Jamal Adams. But yeah, I think that this is definitely going to be a weird one. But we have seen, like you alluded to earlier, Jake, DBs can swing games so much. We had our playoff game. I remember Minkah Fitzpatrick went off for like 46 points in like week 1. So, it is possible, but not super, super likely. So we've got one player left each in your IDP spot. We've got Dre Greenlaw, been doing amazing this season for the Plano Nukes, and then Jamin Davis of the Commanders for the Tudgays.
Other way around.
Way around.
Oh, it is?
Yep, I got Davis.
Why did it switched on my thing? Yeah, that's awesome. Great.
There you go.
All right, so flip it. Talk about your...
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tudgays have this one.
Yeah, Dre Greenlaw is better.
Yeah, I mean, I am so deep right now on linebackers. And when I mean deep, I mean my linebacker depth has been really tested and pushed to the limit. Dre Greenlaw is just better. I mean, it just is what it is, right? Like... Mm-hmm. Anyone disagree with that?
No. Yeah,
nope,
I'm taking Greenlaw just about. I mean, he's up there with the best of them at the linebacker position right now, especially on that San Francisco defense. So I can't complain.
Yep. Arkansas boy, Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, I mean, he's just phenomenal.
All right, so as your teams are currently constant, we have the TD11 Tudgays projected at 314 points, and the Plano Nukes at 322. So if projections actually meant anything, right now the edge would go to the Plano Nukes based on their current roster. Again, that is subject to change, being filmed the day before game start, so it changes, it changed, whatever. I feel like I should ask y'all who you think is going to win, but I feel like I already know the answer. Jake, who do you think is going to win between y'all?
Personally, I think that I am going to win.
Nick, who do you think is going to win the championship?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think that I've got what it takes to bring home the cup.
Yeah. I don't even want to give a prediction because I'm kind of going to be mad if either of y'all win. Because, Nick, if you win, then I have to do a whole podcast with you next season with you bragging about being the first ever BAAD Owners Champion.
Absolutely.
That's going to be annoying. And if Jake wins, I'll be upset because Jake beat my team. So if I have to pick the lesser of two evils, I think I want Jake to win. That way I can say that I lost to the champion.
Right,
so,
then you can say, well, I would have been second.
Exactly. So I'm going to give the edge to the Tudgays, regardless of projections, matchups, whatever. That's just gut feeling. But you both have really good teams. Congrats on making it this far. It is not easy. Fantasy is crazy. Dumb stuff happens every week. And I'm sure a bunch of dumb stuff's going to happen in week 17. So we will see you guys on the next episode, which will begin our off-season episodes of the podcast where we will have crowned a champion. Thank you, guys.
See y'all.
Thank you.